So talk to me about what you'd like to achieve out of this coaching session.
I think what I would like to achieve is potentially look at some of my own blind spots,
Yeah.
figure out how I can be a better communicator,
Yeah.
and if there are any areas where I'm sort of getting in my own way.
Yeah. Are there?
Yeah, probably lots.
Yeah. We all do that, right?
Yeah, but I'm starting to see just my own areas where I'm sort of holding things up in the business, like I am the bottleneck.
Yeah, okay, amazing.
Whether that's me being sort of scared of having a certain communication,
Yeah.
or just making things more of a problem than they need to, not delegating in a way that's effective.
Yeah.
So I guess I can really see that I'm slowing things down.
Yeah.
And so how do I, broadly speaking, how do I get out of my own way and keep things moving?
Yeah, okay, great. So there's a few things there that have a bit of a theme.
Right.
And the theme, yes, getting in your own way, maybe getting in the way of the business or slowing it down a little bit. But also there's a sense of, I guess your high attention to detail, maybe your high expectations and standards, and then not knowing how to delegate in a way that some people will maybe meet those standards you have of yourself, and then how to deal with it when they don't. So there's that going through there as well. Okay, so when you talk about blind spots, so that's really important for me to know what your intention is, right? And so I'm operating within that intention, and I'll share with you whatever I can today in the session that we have that will help unlock that. So what we're looking for, we're wanting to hunt down the blind spots. So sometimes that can feel like we're focusing on what's wrong, like we're really analysing what's going wrong with James, right? But so we just got to balance that out in our understanding to go, okay, James is already successful. He's already creating amazing stuff. He's already got a successful business, right? He's a successful employer. And now we're looking for the opportunity for growth and improvement. So if it ever feels like that we're honing in on what's wrong, just remember that part.
Yeah, gotcha.
That successful people are looking for what's the next level for me. Yeah, so we're looking for just that reach.
Yeah, gotcha. So it's already kind of interesting in the way you speak about that, because you relating to me as a successful person already feels a bit jarring in my own head.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I'm still on the journey.
Yeah.
I feel like that's odd. Like it sits with me in an odd way. Maybe it's not accurate.
Well, it's interesting because who we are for ourselves is not necessarily how other people perceive us, and who's right. Because who we are for ourselves includes all of the conditioning and all the limitations and all the patterns that we've adopted since childhood about who we think we are in the world. Now, is that true, or is that a construct?
Right.
And then what other people perceive is that true? So that's really, when that feels jarring to you, it doesn't mean it's true or not true. Feeling jarring is okay, right? But here's one thing that is really important to know, is that there's greatness within everybody. And it's just our stuff that gets in the way, right? So I relate to you as the greatest version of you, which is why I already know you to be successful, both in reality and in your potential. And then there's just stuff on the path kind of from before that you're putting in the future. Yeah?
Gotcha.
So what we know is that we're either, when we're focusing, we're either focusing on the past or we're focusing on the future. So we're sort of trying to fix what went wrong and not repeat it, or worried about what's coming and hopefully be able to deal with it. Yeah. Very rarely are we right in the present moment now, and that's where we're our most powerful. And that's where we want to bring you into more of.
Gotcha.
Right? So the blind spot. So the first thing, so as I've shared with you, they'll probably put a lot of stuff on the board, and at the end you'll go, well, that's my life on the board. I've never seen my life on a whiteboard before. Sure. But we're talking about blind spots. I want to start with that. So imagine, so this is something I learned 20 years ago when I first started my own development journey. And so if we imagine that this is all there is to know, right? Let's just imagine, in your imagination, this is all there is to know in the universe, right? And so let's say that this wedge here represents what you know that you know. So something that I know is I know how to be a coach. So what's an example of something that you know that you know?
I know how to edit.
Yeah, so I know how to edit. It's something you do a lot of, and you're very good at it, right? So there's lots of things that we know, yeah? So then there's this wedge, which is what we know that we don't know. So an example of what I know that I don't know is I know that I don't know how to edit, right? But if I wanted to learn or find out, I'd know where to go. I'd come to you and go, can you teach me in how to edit, right? So what's an example of what you know that you don't know?
Yeah, well, coaching would be an easy example.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know how to coach.
Yeah, you don't know how to coach. You don't know, what else don't you know?
What else don't I know? What don't I know? I don't know how to code. I don't know how to...
Yeah.
I
You go.
I don't know how to lead a team outside of like 5 or so people.
Yeah. Do you know how to drive a train?
No.
No. Okay, so there's lots of things we don't know, right? And we know that we don't know them. But if we wanted to find out, we'd go to a school teaching train drivers how to drive a train. Right? So there's lots of options to us around learning something that we don't know. So this here is what we operate inside of, what I call like the blinkers on a racehorse. These are our filters, and this has come from our everything that we've experienced and decided and learnt from being, let's say, from the day we were born, or if not before. Yeah. So we'd call this, you know, our conditioning, our experience, our values, our beliefs. Yeah. Our culture. All that stuff that we learn along the way. So you go, okay, well, what is all this then?
Yeah.
What's all this stuff that, if I'm living here and this is everything there is to know, what's all this? Yeah? Any ideas?
That's the unknown?
Yeah. So you don't know that you don't know. And you've seen this before, right? So what you don't know that you don't know.
Right.
So this is the space of transformation, right? And this is where your blind spots live, yeah? So this is not stuff that we already know that we don't know. This is stuff that we don't even know exists.
Right.
So what we don't know that we don't know exists outside of our awareness, and it's coming at us every day, but because of our conditioning is so strong, we don't see it, we don't understand it, it doesn't connect for us because our brain is always looking for evidence of what we already know. Yep, so we scan the environment and we let in what we already know, or it's a match to what we already think, which is why we stay the same, working hard, trying to change or improve, trying to become a better leader, trying to understand how to delegate, maybe reading books or, you know, looking at YouTube, how do I delegate better? Getting information, but it's not making that shift within you. Yeah? So this here are the light bulb moments that we want to move into here, right? So we're seeking this stuff today on purpose, with intention, inside the context of what you've told me you want, to expand this. With me so far?
Yeah.
So we're hunting down this stuff. So when you talk about, is that cool?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that's cool.
Any questions about that?
No, that makes sense.
Okay, cool. So when you say I'm getting in my own way, it's because of this. It's because you're going, okay, this is how I know to lead based on what I've seen, what I've read, what I've experienced, what I'm making up on the spot.
Yeah.
Yep. But there's all this world that you don't know. That's not about learning something new. It's about unlocking something within you. For example, why don't I like having difficult conversations? Why am I not good at holding someone accountable or delegating to them, and then actually sitting here and going, you know what, this thing that we've talked about is not working. Why am I nervous about that? Or why do I avoid that? It's those questions we want to answer, as opposed to getting techniques and skill, like techniques on what to do. Because you can learn a lot of what to do, but still not do it. Yeah? And it's the shift from learning it to actually implementing it that makes the difference for.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah?
That's really clear.
Okay, cool. So, talk to me. So if we were to choose any one of those, communication, bottleneck in my business, scared of having those difficult conversations, not delegating, what's the one that kind of rings
Probably the
loudest?
difficult conversations.
Yeah, okay. So talk to me about what that might look like. What's an example? Are you willing to share an example about that?
Let me just think. Yeah, so basically with one project that I'm working on, the scope of what we were doing has sort of changed. And so we agreed on an initial price for the project, and things have changed.
Okay.
And I'm shying away from having that conversation with the client in terms of, hey, this might actually cost almost double what you initially thought because the scope has changed.
Yeah.
And I'm putting off having that conversation with them because I'm scared, or I'm nervous about them getting upset with me because we've changed things.
Yeah, okay.
That's the type of thing.
Yeah, okay. And what's the story that you've got going on in your head? So if you think about calling that client, so there's a state of procrastination here at the moment, isn't there? I know I need to have this conversation, but I'm putting it off because I'm so busy and I can't do it today. What's the voice in your head saying?
That they're going to be upset, that I've kind of messed this up and I should have communicated earlier.
Right.
And they'll be upset and they'll be angry with me and this isn't going very well. And it's easy just to avoid it.
Yeah, okay. And so let's look at the predictable future. What happens if you continue to avoid it?
Well, inevitably they'll have to find out at some point, and then probably the longer that I leave it, the more upset that they could potentially be.
Yeah.
And then it's just going to be, it's going to force me to try and fix the situation without communicating. So I might do more work, or I might try and fix something, or I might try and find a different scenario that just doesn't have me communicate the thing that I'm afraid of communicating.
Yeah, okay.
Which would probably make my life harder.
Yeah. So here's the thing that human beings do is that you've got a great awareness there, right? You know what's going on in your head. You know what you're doing, but you're watching yourself doing it anyway. Yeah. It's like, oh, I'm avoiding this. Why? Okay, well, I'll just keep avoiding it, right? So you've got the knowing, and yet that doesn't make the difference to change the behaviour, the knowing of it, yes? And often what can happen is because we don't understand the cost, right? So it's one of the things you would have seen before in your studies before, if you talk about the cost and the payoff, right? So the self-awareness sometimes comes from the payoff, but you already know in this thing that you're doing that you're avoiding the responsibility of the conversation, right? There's probably another piece there around payoff that you might not be seeing, but and usually when we see one or the other, there's a moment of, oh, I can't tolerate this anymore. And sometimes it comes from knowing this, but you already know this. My sense is that you're probably not really allowing yourself to get clear on the cost. You're like, oh yeah, I know the cost, as in I'm procrastinating or it's going to get worse. But there's part of you, there's a vulnerability there that you're not sort of tapping into that might be the unlock for this. So if you would just reel off to me a few costs by staying in that procrastination state, what are the costs or the impact that you're experiencing?
More stress.
Yeah.
Lost time.
Yeah.
Lost opportunity.
So other work?
Yeah, other work, other things that I could be doing rather than spending time procrastinating on this.
Yeah.
I guess there's my team and my family. They're all part of what's involved in the business, so that's a cost as well.
And what's the cost to them?
Well, I guess part of it is income directly. If we lose income, they're losing income.
Yeah, and what's the cost of them losing income?
I guess their own peace of mind or their own stability.
Yeah.
And it'd probably just create a lot of fear with them. If there was a big loss, they would be really fearful.
Uncertainty.
Yeah.
Well, how does that have them relate to you?
Well, yeah, I guess if they knew directly that this is what I'm doing, they would be, they wouldn't relate to me well. They'd be kind of upset that I'm making this decision because it's directly affecting them.
And why would they be upset?
Because they know the potential of what I could do.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think they would maybe think, why is James making such a bad decision?
Yeah. Yeah. And would they be, for me, I get there's this confusion about they see and they believe in you. Right. And then why is he doing this? Why is he fuffing around with this?
Yeah, gotcha.
Why isn't he just going for what we know is the right? And so when we're doing something like this, and by the way, human beings do this all day, every day, right? We think that other people don't see it. We think we're, oh no, I'm really frustrated, but I don't let them see it. Well, guess what? We're energetic beings. We all feel each other's energy.
Right.
So while we might not think our family or whoever it is there's a real impact, they feel it.
Right.
So they might not know it consciously or articulate it consciously with you, but they'll be feeling something that's kind of not right, or it's a bit off, or it's not aligned. Yeah. So would create confusion for them, and it can cause then a bit of contraction in them. So maybe they take a step back, not in maybe how hard they work or their investment in the business, but they might take a step back in their energetic engagement with you or their trust. So there's a big piece here around trust, and most leaders avoid this word because they think that means being a good person, or of course people trust me, or I'm trustable and trustworthy. But trust is much more nuanced than that. And trust is about, do I feel safe? Do I feel safe with you, that you've got my back, that you're going to do what's best for me as well as what's best for the business?
Right.
That's a feeling. That's not so much, can I trust you to arrive on time at work? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's that to be aware of too when you're, and it's a responsibility of leadership. It's the double-edged sword of leadership, which is the challenge and the privilege, and comes with that responsibility of our state of being all the time, right? So the be, do, have model. Our state of being, which is our thoughts and our feelings, impacts everything. And we, as a leader, we need to be aware of this all of the time, because it's going to have a ripple effect. Yeah. What are you getting in this so far?
I suppose a lot of the time I don't really think about how my feelings influence everybody else I'm working with.
Yeah.
For most of the time, I guess my default is, okay, this is really challenging, or I'm upset. I'm just going to deal with it myself and not burden everybody else with what I'm dealing with.
Yeah. Yeah. And for a leader, my coaching is always never take it down, take it up. But when you're in your own business and there's no one else to go up to, who do I go to? I'm not saying take it down, but there's this new awareness of doing the work within, or having your own mentor, or whatever that looks like, so that you can provide that level of certainty and clarity for your team going forward. Because if you're not clear and you're procrastinating and you're avoiding things and you're looping, that's going to set the tone for the team.
Yeah, gotcha.
And they might not do it in that one example or that particular topic, but they might loop in something else. And you'll be wondering, why aren't they making decisions? Why aren't they going forward? When I delegate, why aren't they moving forward? Well, because they're feeling that in you.
Right.
So they're modelling your behaviour.
Gotcha.
Yeah? So what other impacts have you got here on when you're procrastinating? So the thing in your head is what? What's the story in your head?
That this person will be upset with me if I tell them the truth, essentially.
Client will be upset?
Yeah.
Yeah. And by the way, what happens? What's the problem with them being upset?
What's the problem with them being upset?
Yeah.
I suppose there's no real problem. I don't like it when people are upset with me.
Because why?
Because why? Because I feel like it's a bad thing to do.
Because why?
Probably because, because in the past when I have upset people, it's been a really bad thing that's caused a lot of problems. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is one of those situations because, so here's the thing. If the client's upset, what if you could be with that? What if you could have that conversation anyway and go, you know what, I can hear you're really upset. Can you talk to me about that? And actually be present and clear and not berating yourself or not avoiding it in your head and trying to fix it, but actually could just be in that conversation and go, you know what, I can really hear this isn't good news for you. Talk to me about what's happening in your mind. And give them that space to be upset.
Right.
Because here's the thing with most of us as human beings, we are not good at just being present with someone's flip out or upset or fear or frustration. We try and fix it, make it better, avoid it, change it. But that pushes down the power of that person and has them not trust us in that they want to be upset and they want to be heard. Every human being wants to be heard and validated, right? And when we can hear and validate someone no matter what's going on for them, that allows them to lean in with us. But when we're trying to fix it or excuse it or make justification for it, then that actually has them feel less heard and trust you less.
I think I get you.
Talk to me. What are your questions?
Yeah, so what it brings up is, I think this is the deeper part. So to give more context, when I was growing up, my parents fought a lot.
Yeah.
That was kind of one of the big challenges I had growing up. We sort of had, I guess, what you call the opposite of teamwork.
Yeah.
And so when I say fighting and arguments, it was never violent, but it was always on the verge of that.
Yeah.
So police were at my house a lot.
Yeah.
And I spent a lot of my time trying to calm down my parents as they were fighting in a way to kind of maintain peace and stability in the house and to also protect my brother and sister.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, like it was dealing with people who were really emotional and who were really upset. And I felt like what I've learned from that experience, which I don't think is true, but it didn't work. Me trying to listen to them and trying to be with their upset, or if I did upset them, created more problems. And probably in line with this is what I learned when I was young, is when they were upset, it turned into this fight, which would last for the entire day, constantly yelling and screaming. I'm trying to go to school, I'm trying to take care of my brother and sister. Goes into the next day, the day after that, and it's just this horrible experience. And it started from somebody being upset.
And how old were you then?
Like from 7 through to probably 19.
Yeah, right. So your nervous system has created a protection within you that doesn't even want to go anywhere near here.
Yeah.
So you'll sabotage your unconscious and belief patterns will sabotage your whatever's going on to avoid the upset, right?
I think that's it.
So for me going, hey, just be with the upset or like allow someone to be upset, it's like, there's no way.
Yeah, it feels terrifying.
Because of this.
Yeah.
And so at such a young age, when you're doing that work around protecting and you're impacted in a way that it can't just be brushed off, right? So there's an embedded belief in here about what upset means and who you need to be around upset, right? So what did you do? Do you remember back? I don't know if you're okay to go back there.
That's okay.
So if you can go back to one of your earliest memories, do you remember who you decided to be? And you might have done this work before. Who did you decide to be when that was going on?
I decided to be strong.
Yeah.
I decided to not really think about emotions and just do what needed to be done.
Yeah.
And I also decided to be small.
Yeah. There's no neural memory for you of how to deal with challenging situations or conflict in a way that has a positive outcome.
Yeah.
There's no connection in here because of how this happened at such a young age and so consistently over a long period of time, right? So there's no belief system in you that this could even go well if you approach this situation. So of course you're not going to go there, yeah? Because my sense is that you haven't resolved all of this.
Probably not.
No. And while that remains unresolved, because the word you used was fix, you're going to continue to try and fix the past. And there's part of you, because you're getting to know you, there's strength in you, there's gentleness, there's a strong desire, but there's also, I think there's this side of you that maybe you don't own at the moment. I don't know fully yet what that is, but I'm wondering if has there been any anger or upset here?
So it's probably another part of it too. I don't really talk about a lot of this stuff. So I was very angry that whole time.
Yeah.
So it wasn't uncommon for me to completely blow out my voice from screaming, to hurt my hands from punching holes in the wall.
Right.
Very, very angry.
When was that?
All throughout that period.
And when did the anger stop?
Probably towards the end. So when I was around 19 or 20, I guess I started to see this isn't leading anywhere. More anger isn't fixing things. It's just creating more.
Yeah.
And so I think somewhere along that path, I realized, okay, I'm just going to stop being angry. I think what I said is, this is a stupid emotion. This doesn't lead to anything positive.
Yeah. And to me, that's the breakthrough for you. When you can let the anger in, when you can actually, because we judge anger that it's really bad. And of course, because you saw it in an environment at home where it didn't feel good, right? It hurt you and hurt your siblings from an emotional perspective, right? But if we put the lid on our own anger, then Brené Brown talks about we can't selectively numb. So we numb anger, we numb joy. We numb anger, we numb freedom with upset.
Right.
We can't be our full selves if we're numbing part of ourselves. So the learning is, how do I have my anger? John Wineland talks about this in his embodiment work, which is about how do I feel my anger, but have it be clean,
right,
and not be projected onto someone disproportionately in ways that maybe they haven't, it's not related to them. At some point in your future, if you don't own your anger and be with it and let it out in healthy ways, it's going to own you.
Gotcha.
It's the same for all of us, yeah? So that's what's my sense is this beautiful man who's kind and generous, but I reckon there's this other side of him that he doesn't even know is there,
right,
that is the evolution of him as a man, right? And the James the man can deal with this because he's bigger than who his mum and dad were for him back then. It's almost like you haven't yet, and tell me if I'm wrong, there's part of you that needs to outgrow that situation, and show yourself, because you are more than them, the angry parents that were holding you back then. Are you with me?
Yeah.
So for me here, there's this payoff. There's another payoff here, and I don't know what it is yet, but go ahead. It's to do with the anger.
I think just what's really present is two things that you pointed out. So like being okay with the upset and the anger.
Yeah.
I have no idea how to do that.
Yeah.
Like for me, that's really challenging.
Yeah.
And I really don't know how to do that. For me, it is very real that those things create more problems.
Yeah.
And for the longest time, I've just said, I'm not going to entertain that type of emotion.
Yeah.
I'm just not going to do it. Yeah.
And so that serves you. Do you sense that it also has a limitation on that?
Yeah, 100%. It's more so, I have no idea how to do that.
What's the limitation that you sense from holding back your anger?
From holding back
or resisting anger?
What is the limitation? I guess there is the numbing. Yeah. Like I can't just numb one part of me. I'll just numb my whole being, every part of me. Yeah. So there's that. And I guess I'm not really being with people in the fullest way that I could. I'm holding a lot back. Yeah. And I probably don't communicate as much as I want to. I guess I don't understand how to express anger, so I just don't. Yeah. And so when you don't express anger, you don't express disappointment, you don't express worry, or you don't express we're talking about delegation. There's no way, to be able to delegate and empower people, we need to be able to let them know when it's not okay, when their actions aren't meeting your expectations, when we're frustrated with the results that we're all getting or they're getting. So if you're not owning that part of you, there's no way that you can have conversations that are free. You can't say to someone, hey, we agreed that you would have this done by close of business today and that didn't get done and I'm really frustrated about that. Talk to me about what happened for you. And I can do that in a place of accountability and compassion, right? In that space of partner, but I'm not projecting onto you. I'm holding you to account for what we said and agreed that you would do. Something got in the way for you. You're human, but talk to me about the result is not okay, even though you're great. And when you can own your greatness within you, right? Remember at the start I said about the greatness within us? When we can own that, including our anger and our joy, we can own that in someone else or allow someone else to own that for themselves. Right. Does this make sense to you? Yeah. So that's a state of full empowerment as opposed to at the moment, you're here. Yeah. Yeah? So the next piece is, as you start to see this, the next piece is, well, how the hell do I do that? And that's another conversation. Yeah.